Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today. Yes, I'm feeling so much better. I'm not 100%, but I'm getting there, everybody. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. We are talking election 2024. Please go meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Carol Saskin, my sister from another mister, is out there in Beverly Hills, and Snowman is there. Hey, 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 sending you all so much love. Everybody like and share the show. Like, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Hey, 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 thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, everybody. And go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. We've got a lot going on today. We're going to talk about these polling numbers and what you think about them. Don Lemon, um, the former CNN anchor, really an icon in American media in this particular era, he's gone independent. And so he did these man on the street interviews, and they've been very, very interesting. He went into New Jersey, which is a deep blue state, and he was on the boardwalk, and he said, there's something about this that I don't quite understand. Because almost everybody there was, almost everybody there was not supporting Kamala Harris, which was very interesting. And there are a lot of things I think that we need to kind of work through. We need to figure out because um, remember when she ran in 2019, 2020, there was a lot of excitement about her running, but her campaign didn't go well, but neither did President Biden's. And then they ended up number one and number two on the ticket. But then they also ended up one of the most unpopular presidencies in the modern era. So there's just a lot going on here. We had a lot of excitement at the convention last week, and we're seeing polling numbers move up for her. But at the same time, as the numbers moving up, she and former President Trump are still virtually in a dead heat, even as she surges ahead in some key swing states. So, what do you think? What is the disconnect? Because we have seen, and we're going to talk with Dr. Robert Starks, brilliant political scientist who has worked with Reverend Jackson down through the years. In fact, he worked with him in his 84 and 88 campaigns, which really laid the groundwork. Is they are the foundation. He helped to lay the foundation for what we're seeing now. One of the things that we saw and learned uh, in presidential politics was just how deeply a black candidate must resonate in the black community. Even when you are crossover, as a black candidate, if you are going to gain traction, if you're going to have a prayer of winning, you must get about 95% of the black vote. No question about it. And they must be an excited electorate. Otherwise, it's just it's not in the cards for you. That's what happened with President Obama. He over-indexed in the black vote. Reverend Jackson jumped from 78% of the black vote, as you recall, Dr. Robert Starks in 1984, to more than 95% in 1988.
Right.
So
Right.
by the time he made what looked impossible possible, many people, in order to hold on to their seats, the black elected officials who would not support him, they found themselves in the positions of having to support him in order to hold on to their seats, because some people won seats and some people lost seats, as you recall, Dr. Starks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, let's talk about this. Let's figure out exactly what is going on, because the Pew Research says that even now, with all of the excitement after the convention, she's getting 78% of the black vote. And she's getting fewer votes in the Latino community. What do you think is the disconnect, and what can be done about it? This is not a song of doom and gloom.
Mm-hmm.
This is We're stepping back and we're looking at what is, so that whatever is that needs correcting can be corrected. But also, everybody on this panel is not supporting her, or should I say, is not voting for her. It's not that people are not supportive. people are making their own choices, and we respect that. And you just know that on the Santita Jackson show, I welcome everyone here as long as we can be respectful and have a healthy exchange of ideas and really agree that we're trying to end up in the same place. We're trying to end up in a more perfect union. What did we say in 1984, Dr. Starks and Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson? We want to move toward a just society and a more peaceful world.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the point. So, with any candidate, we want to know where you are in matters of war and peace. We want to know where you are in matters of economic inequality. When African Americans are looking at negative wealth by the year of 2085, when the Institute for Policy Studies says that the African American family, it will take us 500 more years, Latanya, to achieve economic equality. I don't care who the president is. I don't care who's running. I tell you what, they need to have a program for that because our 40 acres and a mule, we lost. Our black farmers lost more than 90% of their land.
Mm-hmm.
That's billions of dollars of wealth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's be clear on that. And let's not attack people um, because of where they stand. I want to start there because I think that that's very, very important for us to acknowledge. So I'm going to go around this circle because you know me, I'm a little short on breath today. I Everybody says I look great, but I do have walking pneumonia and I can feel it. But you know what? Hey, I'm gonna keep on rolling, Reverend Dr. Wilson. You know how I do. So everyone, I'm gonna call. I just want you to go through the screen, and everyone introduce yourselves to the audience, starting with you, Dr. Starks.
All right. Well, first of all, let me just say, for the record, polls are simply a snap in time. They're not totally definitive. Now, secondly, we have two states represented here that are very crucial to Kamala Harris, and that's Texas and Michigan. And so I want to ask the Texas and Michigan people, can we elect Colin Allred in Texas as the Senate? I'm sure that the state of Texas will probably go to. Uh,
Ted Cruz. Well, no, but the thing is, we don't know that. But let's go around before you do that. Let's go around and introduce ourselves to the whole audience
oh, okay.
because my Howard sister, this brilliant young woman in Texas, we met last week. Even though she said I'd heard about you at Howard, I knew you were trying to be anonymous at Howard. Yes, I was. But everybody knew me because I said hello to everybody. So I got along. Latanya, who are you and where are you from?
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the Santita Jackson Show. My name is Latanya Pegues, originally from Colorado Springs, Colorado, but living in Austin, Texas now. While at Howard, I was one of the people who were doing a lot with Greek letters, but studying physics and mathematics, and had a career working in different types of organizations that dealt with science and engineering, including spacecraft before they left planet Earth, as well as those that are literally circling the orbit now. But now I'm doing a lot of work helping people to work well together. So when it comes to technology, we're always going to get that working, but sometimes you need a little bit more time to make sure that people can work well together.
Howard University in the house. Boom, boom. But we've got the father of a Howard alum. Come on, y'all. Attorney Mark Fancher.
Yes, hello, I'm Mark Fancher. I'm a lawyer and writer based in Michigan.
And my pastor.
Jeanette Wilson, Rainbow Push Coalition, Push for Excellence, and Santita's pastor. We pray together.
Yes, we do. And I'm sending her so much love. Oh, Paula, I love you. And hey, Wanda. And Miss Wanda, love you, love you, love you. Snowman, you said her popularity is manufactured. You know, some people have said that. And other people are saying that no, that she's a breath of fresh air. Um, Whatever it is, I want to know what your thoughts are. And we're open to hearing what your thoughts are, Velma and AW and Andre, my god brother here in Chicago, Bernadette, Francis, how you doing? And Easy Peasy, Paula, that's her other name, of course. Sending you so much love, Karen Lene. You said they're very popular because of their policies, but the fact is, most of us don't know what the policies are because we don't really. Unfortunately, that's not something we're looking at. We're looking at not who people are. We're looking at how they make us feel. That's one of the old rules in communications. It's not. It's not what people say. It's how they make you feel. But the fact is, feelings, while important, Shirley from beautiful Philadelphia, the fact is we've got some real problems that require some concrete solutions, which is why we're here today. But let's talk about popularity. Now, before we talk about these key races, because I have to tell you, I do want to know what's happening in Texas, Latanya Piggies, because you've got someone. I mean, you have this man. I saw Ted Cruz on television all night long soliciting for money. He said, I'm in a tight race. I didn't realize it was this tight. It's within the margin of error.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Mitch McConnell's not extremely popular either. And we have to get real clear that a lot of these people who've been blown up and magnified in Washington, they barely get by in their home states. They get by because we don't vote, Latanya, because we don't vote, Mark. And some of the people sent to us are not inspiring. Dr. Starks?
Yeah, well, again, getting back to Latanya, the word is that Colin Allred can win in the big cities like Dallas and Houston. What about in those other cities around the state?
And then, and if I could connect this to the bigger conversation, Dr. Starks, because that is important. Is she helping him?
Oh yeah, she's.
I mean, no, I mean, my question, because she's down there, is her popularity, this good feeling that we have about her, is that helping him in his race?
I got you. Mm-hmm.
Latanya?
Yes, well, just to be clear, I am not working on any campaign.
Sure.
So I don't have these data and statistics, but as a concerned citizen who does follow things, and I think that this is part of the concern that the Democratic Party had about maybe 6 or so weeks ago when they were speaking with President Biden about his decision, because the elected officials were concerned that the down ballot races could be affected by how people were voting at the top of the ticket. Mm-hmm. And so with that being said, with the excitement that I have seen here in Texas, but it's not, I can't measure it or tell you exactly what it is, but there's certainly, we can feel that wave, that Kamala Harris wave, if you will, coming through the state of Texas, is the fact that probably is going to help everybody go on those ballots, down ballot voting on the Democratic side. And so that, of course, too, would affect Colin Allred because he is voting, running for senator.
Okay. Attorney Fancher, I mean, what are you hearing about pivotal races, I guess, around the state? Is she helping to lift people who are down ballot?
Well, there's some problems for Kamala Harris in Michigan. Much of it having to do with the problems that I have with her. Michigan, particularly in Dearborn, is the location of one of the highest concentrations of Arab people and many who are Palestinians and who have relatives in Palestine. And to date, Kamala Harris has done nothing but insult that community. And when she came to Detroit, and there were protesters who were trying to elevate to raise the issue of Palestine and the war in Gaza and the death and destruction and genocide there, she turned to them and basically told them to shut up. I mean, not her words, but that was the attitude. And from the perspective of many, including myself, given that she was complicit in a genocide that has resulted to date in what I believe are the deaths of probably close to 250,000 people, many of them children, that her obligation under those circumstances was not to tell these people to be quiet so that she could talk, but to invite them up on the stage, to get down on her knees and to beg their forgiveness for not having spoken up, for not having vigorously resisted what this administration has done in Gaza. And instead, that was the attitude that she had. And then at the convention, likewise, Uh, she reaffirmed her commitment to Zionism, to the state of Israel. They invited onto the stage families of at least one family of someone who had been kidnapped by Hamas, but completely shut out Palestinians and Palestinian voices, gave them no opportunity to be present on the stage. So you take all of that along with the backdrop of the communities here trying to send a message with the uncommitted movement, and that message apparently not getting through. I think that that does not bode well for what she might hope will be the response of voters, at least in this part of Southeast Michigan.
Is there anything that I know that the Palestinians were disallowed uh,
At the
from
convention.
being on the stage at the convention? They had the convention was bifurcated. And when I say bifurcated, I do mean that because it was at two different levels. You had public meetings over in one place, Reverend Wilson and Latanya, over at McCormick Place in Latanya. I think you made it over there as well. But the actual the actual convening, it wasn't a convention really, it's a show. The actual show was over at the United Center. And so this, a lot of the seminars and things like that were over at McCormick Place. So the Palestinians actually did have that, but they were not. There was a lot of negotiating, a lot of back and forth, and ultimately they were denied the opportunity to speak before the entire convention, even though they had an Israeli family there, and they should have been there, and they should have spoken to their pain. But for the Palestinians to have been disallowed, for me, as someone who's not Palestinian, is a big miss. And I guess I keep going back to our history as African Americans, and given how hard we fought just to get on the stage in '84 and in '84, the question. I mean, Latanya. I mean, the insults. You remember Marvin and Bernard Kalb. I forget which one of them. They were very, very prominent journalists in the 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe into the 90s. I remember during Reverend's first campaign, either Bernard or Marvin Kalb, they were brothers, asked Reverend, I think, on Meet the Press or Face the Nation, are you a black man first or are you an American first? Those are the kinds of questions, Latanya, that Reverend got when he was, oh, no, 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 no. And don't think that we're that far away from that now. That's birtherism, right? I mean, beyond whatever other issues there are, that's what that is. Do you really belong, right? So, but I think that was a big, big miss. What are people saying about that in Michigan, Mark? What are you hearing?
Well, I mean, people are upset about it. There are certainly a large number of people who are indifferent, and there are within certain communities a certain amount of tension as between Black and Arab populations, which are of long standing, which causes some to say that they're not that concerned. But I think overall, there is continuing concern. And, for some, including myself, it's not even a question of whether the Democratic Party can make an adjustment, because they really can't. I think that they're locked into this relationship with Israel, and they can't get out of it. They don't want to get out of it because it's beneficial to them. And especially when Kamala Harris has made it quite clear that she stands with Israel, through thick and thin, and their, supposed right to defend themselves when they're the ones that picked the fight in the first place back in 1948. But I think that what they have done, which is a very clever maneuver, but which I don't think is ultimately going to work, is to pivot very quickly. The initial concerns expressed were about mass killings and genocide and that type of thing, which is the product of a Zionist philosophy and a Zionist approach to governing in that part of the world. And what has happened is that the Democratic Party has quickly said that it's in so many ways that it's not so much a question of Zionism, it's a question of getting a ceasefire. Implicit in what they say is that if they can somehow get people to stop shooting at each other, uh, then all will be well. We can go back to business as usual. But business as usual was unacceptable. Even before the massacre in Gaza, Palestinians were continuing to experience on an ongoing basis exclusion and oppression and killing and bombings and all kinds of things just as a matter of course. And so until the Democratic Party is prepared to deal with that root problem, then I don't think that they're going to satisfy anybody who has a genuine understanding of the nature of the relationship between the United States and Israel.
Well, let's go around. I want to hear from everybody here. Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson, what do you make of these polls, which Dr. Robert Starks, Northeastern Illinois University, indeed, but beyond being an academic, we also know him as a brilliant organizer and activist, which is why he's here, because he's always brought all of this brilliance from the academy and all of this learnedness. And he's helped us to translate it and say, no, okay, now this is what I learned over here. Now this is what you need to do with it out here in the world. And we're always so grateful for that. But Reverend Wilson, what do you see with this snapshot in time? Because it was pointed out to me, and I did look it up, and it's true. At this same time, Hillary Clinton was in the same place. She was, they said Kamala Harris is 7 points up. She was 8 points up. But, it's when people get in that booth, history has shown white women will vote with white men. They do. And I'm not saying that they haven't grown in these few years, because we all grow, but and then you do have Stacey Abrams did not get more than 10% of the black male vote, when she ran the first time, right? So, Reverend Dr. Wilson, what do you see?
Well, I think three things. First of all, she never would have been in this position had it not been for an act of God. This was not something that Kamala Harris planned. It wasn't part of her strategic plan to become on her road to being president of the United States. That's number one. The fact that the president decided under pressure, I don't know if God spoke to him at midnight and said, hey, it's it. You're done. You've had your time that you prayed for and worked hard for. You've survived that one term. That's all you're going to get. Stop now. And I do not understand how Black people can not support Kamala Harris based on Palestine and Gaza. And I believe that we should be fighting for rights for Gaza. I firmly believe that. I don't understand why African Americans are not upset about Haiti. The horror in Haiti is far worse.
And Sudan.
And the Congo. So don't tell me that you're worried about a Palestinian being on the stage. She spoke to Palestine, but remember, she's the only sitting vice president that is running for president. She's limited in how far she can go, what she can say, why she has been silent for so long. She's been in the background of the president. She's not the president. And for Black men, and I talked to Don Lemon when I was on the floor, because he just interviewing, as Bob says, you interviewing random people. That's not a real,
not scientific, right?
Not scientific. It's not a poll that's representative. However, we all have heard Black men saying, well, I don't know about Kamala. She was a prosecutor. I don't know about Kamala. She was this. Well, what do you know about these men that have been elected president, have been running for office? Nothing. I don't understand the frustration that exists. And I do not understand why we can't just focus right now. Do you prefer the other option to her? Is that a better option? Mark, Fincher? I mean, it's not. No, let me finish, because you went soliloquy on Gaza. And I'm just saying, I don't understand. Some people have said, and John Lemon said, some of the people were saying, well, we made money under Trump. No, yeah. you got the stimulus package under Biden. You got the COVID stuff under Biden. And so people have misinformation based on social media and what they see and believe. I really believe, had not this been an act of God, Kamala would not be in the running for president right now. And so given that, I know what God can do. And I believe that God will deliver her to the White House.
Well, I would like to respond. You know,
Please.
I do think that, you know, God does a lot of amazing things, and I love him with all of my heart, mind, and soul, but I cannot believe that God would try and elevate someone who is complicit in massacres and genocide. And she is. And I think that what we're seeing, you know, among Black men, particularly at the street level, is a reaction that's based on wise intuition. What they recognize is the same thing that white MAGA people recognize, and that is that this entire electoral process, the entire electoral system, is one that does not really contemplate them, their needs, does not really take them into account, has marginalized them, has excluded them, and they really don't see any benefit in it for them at all. They've been completely alienated because this is really something of a game that's played by rich elites who engineer elections and pick people who are going to help them preserve a global empire. And to the extent that that people rise within this system, it is because they're willing to play that role. And I think that when people who live on the streets, you know, people who are part of street culture and street crime, who are the marginalized, the damned, and the despised, when they see a Barack Obama come into the presidency, and for them, from where they sit, no matter what many of us who are middle class or who are privileged in various ways, no matter what we see in the way of tangible benefits of something he may or may not have done, they see nothing. They see that there's really no significant difference between him and anybody else who might be in that office. And so when they get somebody that they think that they can relate to in the office, we can't understand it because we're not in their circumstances. But from where they stand, where they sit at the very bottom, they see a man who's being attacked by the system in the form of Donald Trump. They see a man who took a bullet. They see a man who gave them a check during COVID, which we may regard as really nothing, but from their perspective, they say,
Mark,
at least he gave us
No,
something.
Mark,
no,
Mark,
hold on.
Mark,
No,
Mark,
no, hold
please.
on,
I'm just trying
Dr.
to
Stark.
explain it.
But
I'm not
Dr.
trying to
Stark,
justify
no,
it.
Dr. Starks, wait a minute. I want him to finish.
Okay, let
I'm
him.
not
Okay,
trying to
that whole,
justify any of this or to say I agree
yeah.
with them having an accurate analysis. I think that they are unfortunately lack a lot of information that would help them to put their circumstances into a real context and would be able to analyze it properly. But this is what they see because they don't see anybody giving them anything. The only thing that the only person that they see giving them something is Donald Trump, and they reached the wrong conclusion because he doesn't care about them either. Okay, he hates them passionately, as he is expressed in many ways on many occasions, but they can't and won't see that. And so until you know, and so we I don't think we should be so quick to point a finger at them. I think we should be quick to go and work with them. We should be quick to go and talk to them. We should be quick to help them to understand and to elevate them because I think that's ultimately what God wants. I mean, I just have to be honest. I don't think that God picked Kamala Harris. I think the oligarchy picked her. I think that Biden was damaged goods. He's not a good poster child or a good face for the oligarchy, for the US empire anymore, because he is regarded by much of the world as a war criminal. And they needed a new, fresh face that they could use to help and sell their global program. And these are things that most people don't want to listen to or talk about or accept as facts, but they are.
Dr. Starks.
Well, first of all, I cannot understand why, and I've run into young people that have said, young men, black men, who said that they're going to vote for Trump. And I can understand that, mainly because remember the Central Park Five
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that he spent $85,000 to put ads in the New York Times asking that these men be executed.
Mm.
The fact that he has been absolutely hateful toward African American men and women. Therefore, I don't see how any black young man in particular could vote for Trump. I agree with you about black men being on the streets and being, not looked at for what they are worth. But at the same time, I don't see how they can neglect Kamala Harris, because she has said that she is going to do whatever she can to help them.
Well, Dr. Starks, this is how this can happen because in social media, and they're not lying, this is what bedeviled her in her first race. People who were prosecuted by her have been telling their stories. I think this is an opportunity for her to make things right. She was working within the system, a system that was presented to her. I understand that. Now you can talk about some of the reforms that I would like to institute. I wanted to incarcerate people who were hurting our community.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the people, I hurt some people, and I'm sorry about that. I think it's an opportunity for her because I certainly don't want Attorney Fancher to be a proxy for people who support Trump, because that is not what he is.
Oh, I know that's not what he said.
Yeah. And the thing is, he has taken some very principled positions, and I'm protective of that because we need to be able to have some discussions. Because the fact is, she needs to get 95. You know this better than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to get more of the black vote than she's getting.
Mm-hmm.
How does she get there? That's why we're here. We need to know how she can get there, because Reverend was the first person to have done it. But he could code switch. He was Divine Nine. Hey, he even defeated Governor Douglas Wilder when they were in undergrad to become the second Grand Bachelors of Omega Psi Phi. I mean, but he also, Reverend can go from the Vatican to the National Cathedral to a Holy Roller Church to a storefront to talking on the corner.
And I think that,
and quite frankly, if you are going to make it in Black America and through Black America into the wider world, you've got to be able to traverse all those territories. My question is, how does that happen? And Reverend Wilson, before I hear from Dr. LaShawn Latrice, who's a community psychologist, and LaTanya Pegues, who deals with unconscious bias. This is a brilliant woman of numbers. I was recruited to Howard to do math. Honey, I'm a musician. That's the way that is. But that was what I got the letter from them. But I mean, but I know when she's done the show before, she is a data person. And I said, LaTanya, I understand the data. I need to know what you're hearing though, because she came to Chicago on a fluke. She was at the SCLC convention, Reverend Wilson, and came up here without a room. Wow. And said, I want to come to the DNC, but I heard that Rainbow Push is doing something first, so I gotta be there. That's how we met last week. So just very quickly, Reverend Wilson, and then I need to go to LaTanya, and then to Dr. Latrice.
Okay.
I think what we have to understand is, for this election to be meaningful, we have to go top down and bottom up. You have to hear from people on the ground. You have to understand where people are. And I understand what you're saying, but she has a role to play. She can't touch everyone. We have to touch people for her. And the groundswell I see are really coming from grassroots people. They're printing buttons, they're making T-shirts. When Harold Washington ran for mayor, people took it upon themselves that this is our guy, we're going to make it happen. Now, I think she spend more time, which is why I like the fact that she's not spending a lot of time with media. She is trying to go to the people. She does have to, and you notice as a lawyer, you have to change your argumentative style to hear from people and respond to them. And when they see her heart, I think they will vote for her. Men,
okay.
That's just the way I look at it. And I think we have to communicate some of these concerns to her so she's clear.
Mhm.
our expectations, because it's going to take us to put her in that office.
Yeah, and I think that there is a willingness to listen, which is part of what pushed Josh Shapiro off the ticket. Aside from Senator Fetterman saying, "Hey, his ambitions are going to be a problem," because when he was asked, uh, he and Governor Walz had gave very different answers about what they felt the role of the vice president would be.
Mhm.
It was very clear that Walz was willing to be a team player and play a secondary role as she did. Wasn't so clear with Governor Shapiro. So she had to go, I don't need Game of Thrones in here. I need something else. Latanya, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? And what do you think can be done to just to enhance her?
Well, I think that it's important for people, unlike me, I guess I consider myself like somebody who follows, politics pretty closely. It's just that we start talking about things that people can relate to. I don't know about you all, but has anybody ever been through a hurricane or near a tornado or some really bad weather that was coming towards you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's an organization called NOAA, the oh, NOAA. It's an acronym, which is
Mm-hmm.
now. But basically, they're the ones who are really good at tracking and letting us know when we should be on the lookout and when we should be evacuating. So if a certain person gets in office, he wants to get rid of that NOAA.
Mhm.
So it's not, I mean, so sometimes you can just pull back from the data, pull back from what people's concerns are and say, hey, okay, regardless of what you think about politically, do you think that it's okay for anyone in this country who's born here, however they get here, that they should have an opportunity to be educated? Whether their parents have money, whether they have means, whether their guardians do or not. Is that important? Do you think that's something that should be done? Well, if that's the case, then let's take a look at these candidates and see who agrees with that and who doesn't. And of course, there's so many other things that are there, but there is one candidate who absolutely does not think that should be. So I live here in Texas. Hurricanes come through here quite a bit. And let me tell you, it's good to know ahead of time when you need to start packing and when you need to start moving.
So when you see someone like former President Trump who's looking at cutting infrastructure, as you see it, you're saying, whoa, 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 wait a minute.
Yeah, so it's not about, where you were on either side of the aisle. I get that. There's that, you can talk about that for days, policy. But let's talk about things that people can relate to. Anybody know anyone who came through Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Beryl, Hurricane Maria, all
Mm-hmm.
these different hurricanes? Even Hawaii is going through something right now. So don't we want to know as US citizens whether we should be caring for our loved ones or even if we ourselves need to move? So that's something that people can relate to. Sometimes we get kind of wonky in what we're talking about politically, but if somebody thinks about that, and I think just about all of us may have had that experience of knowing someone who went through that or who is still experiencing, or still trying to even come out of that economically from all those years ago, well, that's probably going to matter to them. And so, not saying that I'm not telling you who you should vote for, but these are the kind of things you don't need to know policy. But if you think that a child should be educated, and if you think that you should know when a terrible weather storm is coming, you probably don't want to vote for a particular candidate.
Okay, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, what are you hearing? Because of course she is from Make Noise for Change, one of these grassroots organizers who also helps to keep us emotionally and mentally healthy. Dr. Latrice?
Hello, hello, hello. I am hearing a number of things. I too think some of the issues that Mark brought up are very prevalent, and I think that it represents a large majority of people who are not at the top. I think the community, I think the surrounding people who are not politically connected may see things differently, and there's a variety of things happening out here. I am a little confused as to why we keep equating the candidate Kamala as being black as to why people should vote for her, as opposed to not voting for the opposite person.
Oh, wait a minute. Dr. Latrice?
Yeah.
Okay, we couldn't hear you. Can you roll up your window also?
No, no, it's not the window. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
oh, okay. No, no, no worries. I just want,
um,
want people to hear you as clearly as they
yes,
can.
I was just saying that I heard a couple of comments being made where people were saying they can't believe a black person would want to vote for the other person, but I don't think this is about black or white at all. I think the issue rises way above that, and I don't think people questioning the motives behind a presidential candidate equates to them wanting the other candidate to win, because I, for one, can care less about Trump. So, but I don't even have enough whatever to mention his name when I'm talking about what the issues are that people are bringing. So a lot of people are saying that they didn't get a clear example at the DNC of real life issues that hit home for them being spoken on. They didn't see a clear representation of the young people. They didn't see a lot of accountability, and they didn't see a lot of things go on that they believe can connect them and pull
Okay.
outside of their poverty and the things that they have experienced, at the community level. And I think that when we think about the issues in the last election, how things happened before, people felt like they were just kind of pushed to a candidate and they didn't have another alternative. And I think in this case, people are not just willing to throw up their hands and say, "I'll just vote." They feel like they want to be heard before they vote.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. I mean, Dr. Starks,
Yes,
because I'm looking at, I'm looking for that 17% or so that she's going to need, and I think that we're hearing some of that today.
mm-hmm.
How do we close the gap? You hear, and Latanya is very supportive, but she's saying, wait a minute, I've got practical concerns. I live in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Hurricanes come through here all the time. People in Oklahoma, they deal with earthquakes all the time. We're increasingly dealing with earthquakes in Chicago because I mean, which is like, wow, yeah. So there's a lot going on. So what I mean, how do we get from where we are right now, Dr. Starks,
Mm-hmm.
to where she needs to be in order to become the president of the United States?
Well, first of all, in the state of Michigan, I agree with Attorney Mark that indeed she needs to address the question of Palestine. But I agree with my sister and my minister, Reverend Jeanette Wilson, that she needs to address Haiti. She needs to address Sudan. She needs to address wherever, Africa particularly. And also, she needs to look at the question of homelessness throughout the major cities in this country, as well as immigration. But let's be clear. Number one, she was the vice president and still is vice president, which means that the president sets the agenda, and she goes by whatever the president says. I'm sure she worked on some of that. So when she came in as as president, running for president, in terms of uh, of uh, Israel and Gaza, she had to go by what the president has done. And I think, however, she needs to sit down and talk with those people in Michigan and Palestinians, wherever they are. Secondly, please remember some of the biggest donors in presidential elections are Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind. Secondly, she's married to a Jew. Keep that in mind. Given all of that, she needs to come out of all of this and address those questions to the best that she can in order to get the approval of many, many Black people, because Black people are concerned about the Palestinian question and the killing of more than 40,000 people. So I agree with you, Attorney Mark, that needs to be addressed.
I mean, because I think that being concerned about Palestine doesn't mean that you're not concerned about Sudan.
Oh,
Excuse me.
you need to say that. You need
Well,
to
no, that's true because we bring it up on the show all the time. Like, we need to have space for Haiti. But the fact is, we've not made the space, and we're not shoveling $20 billion, sneaking it in, excuse me, to Haiti. We don't even know what they're giving to Haiti. We know that there are a lot of arms, and we continue to kill their duly elected leaders.
And they send people back, Haitians who come through Texas are sent back to Haiti. That's crazy.
Well, they want to send them to Guantanamo Base. And I think that as we're making, it's not crazy, it's their plan. We've got to make that part of the issue. But time is flying. I only have like 9 or 10 more minutes here. Can you believe it? I know y'all want to come back for more. We're going to be talking about this more in the second hour. But I'm going to have you close this out, Dr. Starks, but I want to go around and get
Okay.
a couple of minutes from everybody.
Okay.
Latanya, what do you see?
Well, I think that it's important. Maybe that's just the scientist and engineer in me coming out. It's like, look at the pros and the cons. And some people like to get information from different sources, but I'm the kind of person, I want to go to an organization or a group that has actually vetted their sources. And vetting means that they go through and they get like the both sides, and they say like there's the truth, the other side, and then your own opinion, or however that saying goes. But that's where I like to get my information from. So I would encourage people, maybe if they're just kind of haphazardly hearing things, on different social media platforms, go to a place, there's all kinds of choices, right, left, center, but just be courageous and go and listen to each one of those. Because as you're listening to different, I listen to every single news outlet that there is, the ones they say you should listen to and the ones they say you shouldn't, because I might be able to hear something from each one of those that's different that can help me with my opinion. So I strongly recommend that those of you who are listening, or people who are getting some different kinds of information that may not be accurate, encourage them to watch and listen to different types of things, because some people are being compensated to put messages out there that are not necessarily factual or even based on truth.
Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson?
Well, I think that we have to, as individuals and as organizations, look at the issues that most people are affected by. One, we have a large number of unhoused people. And we have to say, how will my vote change the conditions for people that are living on the street? Not by choice, but by necessity. They have no places. We have to look at students. You're voting because you want to change the way students are treated in terms of the cost of college, the cost of going to a university. We want to look at all of these issues, bread and butter issues. What are you going to do to help when I go to the grocery store? Which of the people I vote for? And it's voting down ballot, not just voting for president. You got to vote down ballot.
Yeah,
It appropriates money. And if you are watching the criminal justice system, then you need to vote for the United States Senate, because they appoint federal judges. If you mail in drugs across the country, it's federal. And so you need to look at those things that impact you personally. If you are looking for a job, where our careers going to be opening up for you? You got to vote down ballot. State legislatures determine criminal justice laws. They determine how much they're going to spend on college education. It's a state right. Education is a state right. And so we got to vote for our state elected officials. Voting this year is the most important thing that we can do, based on what people are trying to take from you. So start looking at who's trying to reduce my rights, who's trying to limit it. You look at Texas, and here they are trying to scare people in Texas and take them off the road. So you gotta, if you
1 million people.
Yes, 1 million just removed for nothing. And so if people are trying to steal your right, you got to ask yourself, why is it my right is so important that somebody's trying to steal it from me, take it away from me? And I think that you just have to vote about it. Don't just talk about it, vote about it.
Absolutely, because remember, as this program is being aired, it will be the anniversary of the March on Washington. I'm going to talk about that more and more, because they were looking for freedom, jobs, and justice. And we are looking for that today. And it was a march that was more than 20 years in the making. And so, let's just keep that in mind. Dr. LaShawn Latrice, your closing thoughts.
My thoughts are, if we could just all just think about ways in which the election can impact the communities prior to an election actually taking place. I think there needs to be some intentional canvassing in the communities. I think the educational aspect needs to be taken into consideration. And I think there needs to be also a conversation about removing the myths that people think are true and are not true. And the thing is, until people understand what it is that they're a part of, they may not take the election seriously, because in times past, they often consider their vote not being counted by thinking that the Electoral College just takes over everything. So I think that's something we can consider.
continue to thumbs up, like and share the show, like and share the show, and do me that favor right now, like and share the show, and Attorney Mark Fancher, your thoughts.
Well, I think that everybody has outlined what the real issues are. In addition to Palestine, we've got Haiti, we've got Sudan, we've got the Sahel, we've got Venezuela, we've got homelessness, we've got police violence, we've got all of those things. And I think what people on a mass level are intuitively beginning to understand, but they don't have all of the information, is that no matter who the candidate is, Kamala Harris may be the most wonderful person that we can imagine. She may have the best of intentions. And I know that there is a belief that as vice president, she didn't have any authority or power to make any real changes.
Right.
But the truth is that when she becomes president, she will also not have the power and authority to make changes. She will only be able to take orders from multinational corporations, rich families, and people with influence and power who constitute an oligarchy. That's what presidents do. They can't do anything more. And I think that what people look at is they step back and they see someone like a Barack Obama who made all of these kinds of promises to address these kinds of issues. And under his watch, we had the proliferation of U.S. Africa Command, which militarized Africa. We had a spike in police violence and brutality, such as we've never seen. We saw him in many ways speak down to significant people within the Black community. And people look at that and they say, wait a minute, what is this all about? I mean, if you can't do it as president, then you can't do it. And I think that's what the problem is. And I think that ultimately we're going to have to recognize that this is not a road to liberation. Electoral politics is not. And we're going to have to vote according to what God wants us to do. And that vote may not be within the electoral process. It may be through action and sustained efforts to build a revolution which overthrows it.
Dr. Starks, the last 2 minutes belong to you.
Okay. Well, I think I'll have to agree with Mark that we cannot get everything that we want through politics. We have got to be spokesmen for our group and for the things that we want put on the agenda. If you'll remember, no one has ever mentioned, as Reverend Jackson did, poverty. Nobody talks about poverty. We always talk about the middle class, but we never talk about poor people, people on the streets, as you said, Santita, people who are who have no home to go to at night, no place to go to eat, etc. The thousands of young children who go to school and have nothing to eat. So those are issues that we have to take on as a group of people. Now, hopefully, some of us can get to Kamala and ask her, demand really, that she addresses some of these questions. But again, Mark is right. She is limited by the fact that this society is set up in such a way that presidents are inhibited by doing everything because they have all those other forces, big contributors, political organizations, etc. So they cannot do. Plus, I agree with with Reverend Wilson. We've got to vote down ballot because she can't get anything done if she does not have support in the House and the Senate, as well as in those states that control the election commissions, the boards of education, etc. So we have got to do our job, and I hope that groups like Operation Push can go and insist that she address some of these problems as she goes into the November election.
Amen to that. And let's continue on with this conversation in the second hour because we do. One of the great things about this moment in history is that we're seeing how the sausage is made.
Mhm.
And no one knew that nails and tails were in there too. Right? You just thought it was a yum, yum, yum. You know, the fact is, presidents have lost power over
Uh-huh.
as as globalism, quite frankly, has taken over, and so the oligarchs are in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that is why the economic campaigns that Reverend Jackson and others would launch against these big corporations were so successful
Mm-hmm.
because that's where the power is.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, the president of the United States will take Bill Gates' call before he'll take Chuck Schumer's.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
that's just the way this thing is set up. And we need to get, God bless you, Latanya, you know, we're in the struggle together. So we have to be honest about what she's empowered to do because the power is supposed to belong to the people. And I think that's what you're hearing all of us say. You know, I don't want people to misinterpret anybody here. What Mark is saying is he's saying the ugly part out loud. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
look, y'all,
Mm-hmm.
we're celebrating, but you better understand where the power really rests.
Mm-hmm.
And while you have the power and people rule by your consent, Americans are going to have to get involved in this election, and you're going to have to start boycotting these corporations. That's why we have to have national sovereignty. All
Mm-hmm.
nationalism ain't a bad thing. Nationalism is a bad thing when it tips in one direction, but when you keep your national sovereignty, because see, with globalism, I don't know who I'm answerable to. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, the corporations are in charge. That's got to stop.
Mm-hmm. But it's
It's
only going to stop if people in the communities demand that they stop.
But we have to also tell them the truth, Dr. Starks,
Mm-hmm.
about how this really works.
Yeah.
We have
So,
to tell them the truth, and you have to do it all the time. That's all I gotta say because we got to go to the next hour. But I know everybody's gonna be back so we can talk about it because we're gonna do this. But we got to tell them the truth, and if you want that, I'm gonna try and give it to you on the Santita Jackson show. Why did you say?
thank you for
Oh,
inviting. Mm-hmm.
oh, come on! You know you're home here. I just got to catch you when I can.
Okay.
Check out the
Thank you.
Santita Jackson show coming up in just a few minutes.
Okay.